The whole situation is so confusing that none of us are really getting this right. Actually, Turkey doesn't want Iran to take over everything. Israel doesn't want Iran to take over everything. And in fact, Israel actually stands up for themselves all the time.
They end up being in a bigger war.
Let me finish. Don't interrupt. So Iran gets up against the border.
I'm sorry, Senator. I am interrupting because
comes up
you're going to stick.
In our country, ours is much more progressive. So we've taken the poor off of the rolls. They don't pay income tax anymore. Most people below $50,000 don't pay any income tax. The top 1% in our country pay 40%.
Our audience says that's not true.
Well, the IRS statistics say that the top 1% in our country pay 40% of the income tax, and that those making less than $50,000.
Donald Trump doesn't pay any income tax.
When Rand Paul walked onto The View, he didn't just step into a studio. He stepped into a firing squad, disguised as daytime television. This wasn't an interview. It was an ambush. The hosts weren't there to listen. They were there to attack. But what they didn't count on was Rand arriving armed with a flamethrower of facts, ready to torch their narrative on live TV. From the opening seconds, you could see it in Whoopi Goldberg's eyes, that simmering glare that said she was about to erupt. But Rand didn't flinch. He sat locked in, steady, knowing exactly what he was walking into. This wasn't a conversation. It was a trap. The only thing missing was a flashing red button under his chair. Yet, instead of backing down, he leaned forward, ready to take on the panel head-on. They tried, one after another, to pivot to his book, The Case Against Socialism. But the truth was obvious. None of them had actually read it. Or worse, they had, and it struck too close to home. Then Sonny Hostin jumped in, insisting Venezuela's collapse had nothing to do with socialism, brushing off starvation and empty markets. As if it were nothing more than bad luck, Rand's reply cut through like a blade. That's a lie. Socialism destroyed Venezuela. The same poison Bernie Sanders is pushing here at home. The studio froze. The audience gasped. The hosts squirmed and ran. He looked calm, collected, and just getting started.
The case against socialism. Bernie Sanders is no longer alone on the debate stage. It seems like we're hearing more and more about socialism. In fact, 43% of Americans think it's a good thing. You are on the complete other end of that. Tell us about this book.
Well, one of the things we learned in writing the book is a lot of people say, well, we're not for Stalin, we're not for Hitler, we're for Scandinavia. So as we were researching the book, we actually found that Bernie Sanders' form of socialism actually is unpopular, and he would never get elected to anything in Denmark. In fact, the Prime Minister of Denmark, when he heard Bernie was going around saying they were socialists, says, no, we're not socialists. We have private property, a stock exchange, we have low corporate income taxes, we don't have a minimum wage. And the big difference, and this is where the big lie comes from, Bernie says we're going to give you all this free.
Rand Paul exposed one of the biggest frauds of the progressive playbook, pretending Scandinavian capitalism is socialism. He pointed out the obvious. Bernie Sanders wouldn't even win in Denmark. Those nations thrive on free markets, private property, no minimum wage, and low corporate taxes. Suddenly, Whoopi's smile vanished. Rand kept pressing. The truth, he said, is simple. All those free programs are paid for by crushing taxes to 60% on ordinary workers and a 25% sales tax on nearly everything they buy. Then came the hammer. It's not free. It's theft. The crowd erupted. Whoopi's eyes narrowed, stung by the blow. And then came the zinger that tore the roof off. If you vote for a socialist, you will get socialism. The applause wasn't for Whoopi or Sonny, it was for Rand Paul. Whoopi's face showed it all. Disbelief, frustration, the look of someone who had lost control of her own show. She snapped back. Maduro is not a socialist, he's a thug. Rand didn't hesitate. He's a thug created by socialism. Every tyrant, he explained, starts by promising free things and ends with prisons full of starving citizens.
Well, we're only going to tax the rich people. In Scandinavia, they tax the working class, 25% sales tax, and an income tax starting at $60,000 is 60%. So really the difference between their country and our country is they do have more free stuff, in Scandinavia, but they pay for it with massive taxes on the working class and the middle class.
But we have massive taxes here, but we don't get any free stuff. We don't have free health care. Our public education system is a problem. It seems like the only people that get free stuff are the very, very wealthy.
We have a different form of taxation in our...
The panel scrambled to recover. Sonny threw out tax cut talking points. Joy mumbled something about health care. Rand countered with nuclear facts. The top 1% pay 40% of all income taxes. The bottom 50% pay nothing. The room went silent. Sonny stuttered. But what about free health care? Free education? She pressed. Rand smirked. Nothing is free. Then he dropped the hammer. In Denmark, the working class pays a 25% sales tax and 60% income tax. That's not a dream. It's a nightmare. The crowd gasped. Sonny's arguments melted on the spot. Then came the kill shot. Whoopi, scrambling for higher ground, declared, "I'm not left or right. I'm just American." Rand didn't miss. If you're just American, Whoopi, maybe try listening to ideas that aren't spoon-fed by your echo chamber.
I live in Miami. There's tens of thousands of Venezuelan exiles living there. You talk a lot about Venezuela in your new book. I get a lot of political ads from the Republican Party. Donald Trump has tweeted this. Many have tweeted this. If you vote for Democrats, they will turn the United States into Venezuela. Do you think that's a fair statement to make?
Well, if you vote for a socialist, you might get socialism.
Come on, don't do that. Maduro is not a socialist. He's a corrupt, murderous thug who is starving his people.
That's not true.
That's not true? Maduro's not a thug and a murderer who's starving his people.
Let's have a conversation here. Chavez was a socialist, and socialism was the economic system of Venezuela.
It's a kleptocracy. It's not socialism.
But here's the question is, they voted for socialism. They voted for, let me finish.
No, I can't let you finish. If you're going to say Maduro's not a murderous thug, I'm not going to let you finish.
Sonny tried to pivot again. "You're abandoning people," she warned. "That sends the wrong message. To the world." Rand leaned in, voice steady, eyes locked. "You know what message we should send? That America is not a global ATM or a permanent bodyguard for every crisis." The crowd erupted in applause. Joy winced, like a grenade had gone off in her lap. Then Rand dropped the real bombshell. The same people crying about leaving Syria are the ones who would have kept us in Vietnam for 30 years. This war-hungry elite doesn't want solutions. They want power, and you're helping them sell it to America, disguised as compassion. Boom. That line went viral instantly. Clips lit up social media. Rand hadn't just argued. He had exposed the machine of spin-keeping America trapped in endless wars. Whoopi scrambled, "Assad is dangerous. Iran is closing in on Israel. Don't you see the threat?" Rand didn't blink. "Assad is awful," he said. "But the other side were Al-Qaeda affiliates. For 2 decades, we've been forced to choose between poison and fire, and every time, we get burned."
And I've got a bunch of neighbors and friends who know this. Don't do this to me. Don't mansplain. I'm a 47-year-old.
Thanks to Senator Rand Paul. His new book is called The Case Against Socialism, and we'll be right back.
One of the things I've always supported about President Trump is actually one of the things I liked about President Obama, that we said we were overextended, that the Iraq War was a mistake. I think it's one of the reasons President Obama beat Hillary Clinton, because Hillary Clinton had supported the Iraq War. I still think the Iraq War, regime change in the Middle East, and these wars are senseless. So does President Trump. He doesn't want to get us involved in another Iraq War in Syria. If anything, Syria is more complicated. The other is a practical concern. You have 50 soldiers. They're talking about moving 50 soldiers. Who goes to war with 50 soldiers? You have 50 soldiers and tens of thousands of Turkish troops amassing. The Turks are also allies. The Free Syrian Army were our allies for 7 years. They're allies.
We bomb one dictator, another rises. We send troops, they become targets. We stay, we die. We leave, we're blamed. And Washington gets richer, while the working class pays in blood. The room fell into silence. Whoopi shouted one last desperate line. You're abandoning people to slaughter. Rand snapped back, fire in his voice. Tell that to the parents of soldiers killed in wars with no mission. Tell them their children died for a headline, not a purpose. The audience erupted in thunderous applause. Whoopi opened her mouth, but no words came. She blinked, eyes darting, voice gone. The ultimate on-air meltdown. Rand stood, his mic still hot, and delivered the final blow. This show wanted a gotcha. Instead, you got the truth.